No crowds, no queues. That's the good news. The bad news is there are no trains. Tonight, much of the London Underground ground to a halt.
Due to strike action...
Strikes in protest at ticket office closures will disrupt the capital for the next 2 days, unless a way out can be found.
Mr Crow, you're through to Mayor Johnson. Good morning again, Mr Crow.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bob Crow, the boss of the RMT union, and London's mayor haven't met for years. But today, they did talk on a radio phone-in.
Boris, we're not asking you to negotiate whatsoever.
We're asking you to listen to our point of view.
We would love to call the strike off.
Well,
and
that's
this
the
strike
thing
can
to do.
Repeated strikes or threats of strikes on the tube have become so common that ministers are thinking about new laws to make them harder to call in future. Millions of people worrying about how or whether they'll get to work are probably not that bothered about whether it'll lead to a change in the law. Millions who don't work in the capital may think it's nothing to do with them. But this strike, according to the Mayor of London, may well lead to a new law that affects public sector workers all over the UK. Boris Johnson says that strikes that get the support of fewer than a half of the union's members should be illegal. Fewer than a third of RMT members back this one.
We will continue to be vulnerable to this kind of pointless strike action unless and until we get that legislation which would put a threshold of 50% of those balloted actually taking part in the ballot before you can have a strike.
But if such a threshold existed, people point out you wouldn't have been elected mayor.
That is true, and it's a fair point.
Number 10's also looking at limiting public sector strikes with so-called minimum service agreements and at tightening up the rules on strike ballots. Do you want a law to restrict the right of people to strike?
No, I don't think so.
Even if it disrupts you, you don't want a new law?
No, I don't think so. I think it's entitled to strike.
Everyone should have the right to strike.
Even though it's going to cause you real hassle?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Prime Minister's called this strike shameful, but the Liberal Democrats and Labour say the Tories should stop thinking of new laws and focus on what's needed now.
Everybody in London who needs the tube is exasperated by the idea that there should be a strike, and really they should get together, they should get round the table, they should sort it.
Another strike on the tube. It could end up changing a whole lot more than millions of people's daily commute. Nick Robinson, BBC News, Westminster.